start over again.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. Before we start, I have to ask if anybody's videoing or taping the meeting to please make themselves known. Seeing nobody, we'll move on to the roll call. Start with my young lady on my
Kim
left.
Kennedy. Pachoni.
Bill Carey.
Chris Clark, Town Council Liaison.
Bill Monroe.
Pete Sampu.
Nina Coleman, Sandy Neck Park Manager.
Chris Kelsey, Barnstable Police.
Tom O'Neill. Thank you, everybody. In terms of the minutes from March, anybody have any suggestions, comments, ideas, changes from the minutes?
Move the minutes.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Minutes are passed. Public comment, anybody have anything to say? We're gonna rearrange the, do you want to do correspondence first, or do you want to just go to?
I don't have any correspondence.
Okay. We'll just go to, one of the things that I think all of us take great pleasure in is seeing some of the young men in our community and women, getting involved in organizations that develop their project management capabilities and help them, which is a critical skill to have as you grow older, no matter what job you do. So we've had a number of scout projects here, thanks to Bill's leadership and sponsorship, and we're always really happy to see them continue. We have a presentation tonight from Mr. Munoz, who is going to tell us a little bit about a project that he's proposing for Sandy Neck. So we're going to put him on now so he can, and the rest of the guys can do their thing and then leave if they want to.
So
Okay.
I might just tee
You
up
wanna
Jordan
introduce?
just a little bit. And he'll probably share this with you, but Jordan's been looking at this idea. The germ of his idea actually came from that young man's Eagle project, which was the benches in the campsites and the tables and the water jug thing on Trail 4. And the pictures you'll see might be familiar to you because that's the design that was developed for the previous project. So it's basically taking the germ of an idea, and Jordan and his grandmother Joanne, who's here, we all took a ride a while ago, and we still got a thumbnail of which he's continuing to flesh it out. So welcome, I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. As you know, I am Jordan Munoz from Troop 54 Centerville. If we're all good to go, may I start? So, Sandy Neck Eagle project. It's a six bench construction project. The project summary. It's to gather project materials, workers, supplies, and to gain approval. Step 2 is to assemble the 6 benches across the given project work time. Step 3 is to place the benches in the designated location across the Sandy Neck beach. For the project timeline, is to gain the approval for the project, order the lumber needed and other materials, construct the benches, bring the benches to the designated trail locations, and acquire the final project sign-off. The steps for approval is to get the Sandy Neck board approval, Troop 54 leadership approval, and the committee board approval. Now, if there's any questions before I get into the big stuff.
What is the committee board? Is that a part of the scout organization?
That's what I named you guys. I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay, so
No.
Sandy Neck and.
Well, no, that's actually, if I can just clarify that just a little bit. I did send you a note on this earlier, but. So basically, this board doesn't, it's an informational, and so forth. Basically, his project representative for the town would be Hannah, so the details can be worked out, with Hannah. And what comes out of tonight will go into his workbook, which he's still writing, and that will be presented to Hannah for approval. And it has to go, the last part where it said committee approval, that's actually the Cape Cod and Islands Council Advancement Committee. So it needs to get approval from the town, who's the recipient of the project. It needs to get approval from the troop, which is the scoutmaster, and the troop committee, and it also needs approval from there's a Dr. David Wood, you may know, actually reviews all the projects Cape and Islands wide and make sure that they meet the scope of the leadership. An Eagle project is really, it's about leadership as much as in developing a project and a work plan as much as it is about the end project and providing service to the community. So it's really a development process for the whole process. So he's got those 3 steps that he has to get approval, basically from the town whose the representative is Hannah, and from the troop, and from the Scout Council.
Okay. My question is, could the scout leader identify himself, and the other young man that project preceded, could he identify himself for the record?
Yes, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 54. And
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carter Hickey. I'm the past Eagle Scout from Troop 54.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Bill. But for the dimensions, it is 6 benches again. For the top of the bench, it is a lot of stuff. So 2x6 boards, 6 long, 3. I don't know if I want to bore through all that. Yeah.
Is that the material for one bench, or that's the total?
It says the leg support and wrap and the top of the bench are
Per bench.
both per bench, yes.
Yeah.
And yep, the total lumber at the bottom.
yeah, pretty much replicating the previous bench. So pretty solid, sturdy.
And what you can't see in the picture, fortunately, there is 2 feet of wood in the ground for each bench. So man hours, it is a lot of words, but to put it in summary, there will be, I've planned with the peers, scoutmasters, coaches, and the St. Neck representative. I've spent around 15 to 20 hours doing that. That does not include the time being reviewed here or talking here. And then the predicted estimated amount of time after this for the project work phase, we'll have about 10 scouts/adults working 6 to 8 hours on the benches, and that will lead to another total of 60 to 80 man hours. And then after that, when we need to place the benches, we will have 4 to 5 people spending 2 to 3 hours, which leads to another 10 to 15 man hours. So in total, that averages about to 100 plus, around 100 man hours. So there, again, any questions?
I have one obvious one. Can you make them on site so you don't have to transport them? Is that possible, or is that too difficult with the materials and everything?
So, sorry, but we're given like a designated sort of workspace. I think it's their maintenance building to work on them.
Okay.
And then it's throughout trails of the Sandy Neck.
Those different places then? Yeah, okay.
Right, logistically, just with the power,
Yeah, that's
the
what-
power saws, the hand saws, things like that, it makes sense to do it at the maintenance building, kind of similar to how he did it.
Okay, yeah, that's another question.
This might be a dumb question, but do you get badge for this? What do you, are you earning badges when you do things like this?
Well, if I complete this project, I get my Eagle rank,
Oh,
which is
so this is the big,
Better than a badge.
the big thing, yeah.
big.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is, you can see Carter's has his merit badge sash on there, which shows the different merit badges that he's given, but a specific requirement since the 1960s of becoming an Eagle Scout is not only doing this stuff for yourself, but doing a significant project for the community and developing and planning that project. So it is the Eagle application, not to scare anybody, but, after he gets doing, this paperwork, then he has to do like his thesis presentation, which is the pictures of the project and all about his history and everything else, and go to another group where he can be nervous and present. But it is a process, and it is a service project. Plan and give leadership to a service project is a specific requirement that every Eagle Scout must undertake.
So Jordan has a sash like he does that has all the things on it,
Yes, I do.
other badges.
It's not as flashy.
We discussed this prior, isn't it? It's part of the learning experience.
Something he forgot, or?
Unfortunately, I left it at home, yes.
No, it's in the car.
If you're thinking quickly, you'd have borrowed his, so you could at least,
Yeah, then I wouldn't ask that.
Scout is trustworthy. Wow.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. If that's all, next slide. So the bench costs and beneficiary benefits. So 3 main benefits I listed down. First one, it helps, Sandy Neck visitors rest when they get tired or need a break on the trail, thus making Sandy Neck a better place and more enjoyable for visitors. Second is that they requested the bench, so, it obviously make them happy to fulfill that. 3, it will encourage people to visit the trails. Along the way, they will learn about nature and why the places like Sandy Neck should be protected. And then to the costs, the lumber, this is a rough estimate. The lumber was $605.25. The screws was $31.41, with the overall estimate being $636.69.
And where did you get this information?
Home Depot, I did.
And that's total for the 6 benches. That's not per bench.
6 benches for total.
Right.
That's the last, big slide. So, again, if there's any questions.
Where's the money coming from?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well,
Me too, Bill.
if all goes well, we're hoping that the money will be forwarded to buying the benches.
If you have to do fundraising, what's your estimated timeline? What's your estimated timeline if you have to do fundraising?
Estimated timeline?
Yeah, like how long will it take? I know we kind of talked about,
So that's another badge.
it would probably be late summer, we talked about.
We've actually talked about this as well. There's a gift account that needs to present to Sandy Neck Beach Park and see if there are available funds from there. And then they can give him an idea of if there are enough available funds for the project. And if there are not, then he has to come up with a plan on where to raise the funds for the project. You don't need to buy screws because he bought 40,000 screws, and provided they haven't been lost in the garage, there's plenty of screws available. So,
They're there.
Correct.
Thank you, Tom. Have you considered checking in with some of the local vendors to see if they would give you a bargain price or even donate some of the materials? Because there are some vendors who are very generous in our community. Shepley's is one.
Shepley's, okay. Unfortunately, I don't think we did that. So,
We do have a contact in Home Depot that has in the past given us discounts for Eagle projects, as long as it's serving the community, of course. For those prices, I believe you just pulled right off the website.
yeah.
So, yeah.
At this point, there's no need to go to that
Correct.
stage because we did give him an indication that it was likely the town could, through the gift account, fund most of that. So that question will come later.
Did you want to?
But I have to say that you could save the money in the gift count by one visit and just making a request or a letter.
Right.
I think that it doesn't hurt. I mean, I have done my share of soliciting in this town before, and the business community really steps up to the plate, and they're happy to support a noble project like this.
Just from a development standpoint, one of the hardest things to do, no matter what job you're in, is asking people for money. And so it's not a bad idea to take that on as a bit of the development if you could, just to see, because it is the hard part. You can present what I want to do, but actually having to go to somebody and say, that you believe in this project enough that you're going to ask somebody for money is pretty key to developing. So, think about that. Maybe have a strategy where you'd maybe get some money from the town, some money you develop on your own, which is potentially, good development for you.
I'd be willing to join you if you want a company to.
You didn't mention the timing or the date that you're looking at getting this accomplished. Did you have, I didn't see it on the slide. Do you want to talk about that?
If I may, I think I have the papers over there. This one.
Okay. It's basically, well, we can just talk about it. We're planning on camping as a troop out at Sandy Neck on the weekend of May 19th, I believe it is. So right now, the troop has planned, assuming everything is approved and good to go, lumber's in place, paid for, all that, they can assemble these on that Saturday. So it would basically be before the tourist season. So that's ultimately, I know he had it in his plan. I don't think it made it to the slides. So a little bit tight, but.
So do we need to have Jordan back before that time, or do we can just approve the project now and then? Jordan could then give us a report afterwards, once it's completed.
I'd like to move that we approve the project as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's passed. So you have our approval and our blessing and good wishes to make this project happen. So go do it now.
Next time, wear all your badges.
If I could make one recommendation, it's sometimes fun to see who it is that donated something. So if there's a plaque of some sort, very inexpensively, you could put down, troop number 54 or whatever.
Yeah.
Your troop number is Eagle Scout project or something. It makes it sort of interesting for those people traveling along.
Weren't you looking at one of those plaques on Saturday when we were out there? Jordan and Carter and Jerry and Joanne, I think, we did a small service project out at the halfway house, cleaned that up for Pete's group a little bit, even though we complained we didn't do it enough for him. And also did a good turn for Mrs. Hallett down at 2.2 along the Marsh Trail and put up her nesting or seasonal nesting boxes. So that little village of boxes is out there, and these guys were all involved in that as well.
Yeah. And regarding the plaque, that is something that we do traditionally as a troop. I know for Carter's, we did it as part of his ceremony when he actually earned the rank. So that certainly would be something I believe that.
And if you visit the Trail 4 campsite, I believe you'll see a nice little sign already in place.
Yep, absolutely.
Jordan, if you convince Bill to pay for it, then you can put a Bill Carey plaque on it,
Perfect.
since he brought it up.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
gentlemen, thank you very much, and gentlemen.
Thank you again. Yeah.
Figured we'd get you done, so if you wanted to go, you can move on. Thank you very much. Where did I think I had some correspondence? Staff report, Nina?
Sure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks a lot.
What that looks like.
All right. Real quick staff report. I will let you know everything is revving up on the beach. We're definitely having that feeling of spring. So plovers are everywhere, osprey are everywhere. Everybody's coming back, looking for stickers. So we are officially open at the Gatehouse, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm sorry, the off-road beach is open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and the Gatehouse is open 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. That's to work around staff shifts. Just to remind everybody, no campfires still until the 1st of May. And that's also when our curfew changes and folks can stay out on the off-road beach until 10 p.m., tide permitting. Yes, ma'am?
April 30th.
Oh, thank you.
There's no 31st.
Got it.
It's a trick.
It's a trick. Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
They can't have cars ever.
Ever on the 31st.
Can you imagine? Speed limit is 5 miles an hour. That's super important. Our plovers are now on the ground, busy, checking each other out, and they're not paying attention to vehicles. Super important that you drive slow. We will be pretty heavy-handed with that. Not just safety of our endangered species, but also safety of our community. Just to remind everybody, we have the MBBA spring cleanup this weekend, which is school break, also the beginning of school break. April 15th, 9 a.m. to noon. Come on down to Sandy Neck. Help out getting your favorite beach ready for the summer. We have all kinds of fun activities planned. We have beach cleanups. We have peat exploding. We have fencing and moving pallets around. We've already got some pallets down. But we certainly will take more of those and move those around and do our usual spring work to get the beach ready, not only to get the fencing up correctly, but also to continue to work in our first 0.5 miles of beach, which is our HCP area, where we're allowed to deter plovers. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of pallets, it takes a lot of raking, it takes a lot of effort. So we appreciate MBBA helping out. As noted already, plovers are here. We've put up over 9 miles of fencing, so we go all the way down to the town line, and then we go all the way out to Little Neck, and then we have to wind around Little Neck because there's multiple fingers out on Little Neck, and then all the way around the point. Tent camping is extremely popular and is picking up. We have our reservation system now is, you don't have to do it the day of. You can go on our Links Log software and you can book, so people are scrambling to book for the good weekends. And as I mentioned, the Gatehouse is selling a lot of permits. I also ordered a lot of merchandise and some really cool colors this year. Last year we had that like COVID hangover where you really couldn't get anything. They couldn't get any good colors, couldn't get any new merchandise, and we're starting to see that that the industry has been able to fill our requests, and we should be looking at some new stuff this year, some new logos, and some new a jersey hoodies back by popular demand. Some turtle stuff coming out. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Some S&K stuff. So keep an eye out for that. I'll bring it next month rather. And just looking forward to the summer. Looking forward to the cleanup. And that is all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
How is staff hiring going?
Staff is really good. We had almost everybody return. Great staff last year, so we're really excited. And we have just a few positions open. I think at this point it's really just a couple. The one that we are struggling to fill that's super important is the maintenance personnel, which also runs the portable, the pumper truck. So very important position. It's actually it's the highest paying seasonal position on Sandy Neck, and we're extremely flexible. We can work around somebody else's job. A person could come in early or late in the evening, and so casting that out there, it's a hard one to fill.
Yeah, it seems like every year we're talking about that. Thanks. Any other questions?
Can we park in the parking lot overnight, Friday night, with the campers for the cleanup?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I just remembered correspondence-wise, I forgot there. I knew there was something. Just going back to the Rec Commission saga, I did again speak to Cindy about it, and as we've now passed the year anniversary of filling that vacancy. And I guess the story now is they have somebody selected for the Rec Committee. I think the second review by the Town Council is in July, I think, or something like that. I have to go back and look at that.
I thought I saw it.
It's had one review, and I think it's got one more to go.
Yeah, so it should be the next town council meeting,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's,
First read, and then,
We're coming into budget season, so a lot of the town council business might get shunted to July.
yeah. I think it was July. It might be that long. I'll double check. But in any event, there is at least a person who has been appointed. So in theory, I honestly don't know why they couldn't appoint someone from the 6 people they had, but I'm not, But apparently, when this new person's appointed officially by the town council, then we'll have an appointment from the rec committee to the, if it doesn't happen sooner, then I am going to make more of a motion to the town to move on this and get somebody in the job, because it's not really fair to this board, really, so. So anyway, that's where it is. That's my update on the rec committee.
It's unusual that it's done that way, that's all.
Yeah,
My point of view.
exactly.
I have just a few more slides that I forgot
Oh,
to
sorry.
mention.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
It's okay.
So a few other things that have happened. March 30th, the Sandwich Girl Scout Troop visited Sandy Neck and met with Officer Kelleher and learned about trail safety and what to pack in a first aid kit. We're also learning about wildlife and turkeys walked right in front. What to do if you encounter a turkey, and then there they were. So it was apparently a very fun afternoon for the young ladies. And then I did want to point out that we have been really using the Upper Cape Tech students this year. The environmental program there has some really great teachers, and they've teamed up with us. And they've been raking our rack line back to that 0.5 miles that we're trying to deter plovers. You can see they're raking. They've put some pallets out. They've done a whole lot of prep work. So we're really grateful to that group. And it's fun to hang out with those young people. They seem really interested. And one day it was nice out, and we took them out to see plovers and did a little education while we were at it. So it's been a good partnership. And that is the end of my slides. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions for Nina? Okay, I think we don't have too much more on the agenda. We want to just go through old business, which is our sort of strategic focus areas. So Pete, do you have anything you want to? I'm going to just update quickly on the project.
I'm just going to say it's pretty much out of my hands. It's going forward.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I won't have anything else to add to it in terms of the long-term resiliency plan. It's out of my hands now.
I mean, just quickly to update, we had the public meeting last week. A number of you were there. And it went well. I think Amber does a great job presenting it. As you know, there's been a major thing that's changed based on the feedback that came from the last meeting was a lot of pushback on the ORV trail moving. And so there's been revisions to the project now where we have 2 alternatives, that one of which does move the off-road trail and the other doesn't. In both cases, the parking lot moves back behind the 50-year line. In both cases, the gatehouse moves to a new location now, just around before you get to the ORV trail turnoff. So to be up there's a little bit of a knoll up there that they think they can put the gatehouse, just move the existing gatehouse to, which will keep it out of harm's way, at least, for the foreseeable future in terms of flooding. So the project team voted to go with their preferred alternative for the project team was not moving the ORV trail. It's going to be safer without moving it. It's also cheaper. It addresses a lot of the concerns that were raised by neighbors about volume of activity at the top of the hill and safety. So the team voted unanimously to go with the support that particular option. So I think we are going to have to, we're going to wait till the end of the public feedback, which is due by the 14th. We'll get that feedback in, the project team, take a look at it. Is there any major issues? Keeping in mind now, we're only at about 30% design, right? So this is way early to be getting into too many details or weeds on, specific little bits and pieces of the project. Once that project that feedback's taken into account, then May, we'll be bringing that back. I'll be bringing it, or someone will be bringing it back to this board, and I'll be asking you guys to vote on that preferred option. And that will be the option we take forward to 60% design. And hopefully, it's going to change, obviously, from there in small pieces, but that'll be the bulk of what we want to continue to drive to completion. So This may actually happen. It's been a lot of work from a number of people all over the place, on the board as well as in the town. And, I think it's going in a good direction, and I think there's no reason to think we can't pull this off in the end. So I just, we'll have a little more you guys will have copies of the presentations. As I said, I know a number of you are there. But we will look to vote on that next meeting in May. And then from there, it's over to the town. Mark and his team and the town council will ultimately have to weigh in. And then ultimately it goes into the capital pot, for consideration against all the other projects that they have to do. You mentioned to me the other day that assuming it went forward, it would be the capital budgeting this year for next year or next year for the following year. I wasn't sure.
It would be 2025.
So it would be literally like next fall?
25, right? Fiscal year?
So right now, we're reviewing CIPs for fiscal year 2024, so it'd be roughly a year from now.
Okay,
If
so,
all went well, that we'd be looking at that capital.
so building is
request.
probably 2025 is when we'd start
Right.
construction. Okay. So it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint, this project, no doubt. And we have the permitting hurdles ahead, but, I think the team feels pretty confident with this newer proposal. There's less friction in terms of permitting, and so we're hopeful it's going to work out well. So that's just a quick update, and we'll have more. You have the presentation, so you can look at it, but if you have any questions in the meantime, you can contact me or Nina.
I just want to say that the presentation was recorded, and so it's on the Sandy Neck webpage. On the front page, on the right side, it says notices. It's the first one at the top.
Is it there? No, because I just checked a little while ago, and it was just the announcement for the meeting, not the video.
I
So
just
just check.
checked as well. No, I
Okay,
checked
okay, all right, good.
as well. It says April 5th is how it was written out.
Okay.
And then right at the top. And that will give you all the material in terms of Amber presenting it, and then the next link below that is just the slides. If you want to look right at the plans, that would be your best bet there.
Yep. Any questions? Yeah, Bill?
I thought Amber had said, though, there was going to be one more public meeting?
Yeah, there'll be another public meeting probably in June,
Okay.
if we stay on schedule. I think isn't there like a funding hurdle coming up for is there a CZM grant timing coming up?
Yeah, there's
trying
those
to-
run
I can't
really
remember.
quick. Yeah. But there is one more, and so I think we're starting to get to the point where we'll have a design where we can get into the weeds a little bit. We're going to have those last little tweaks. And I'm thinking that that's the meeting where, we're going to discuss the number of air down spaces and lighting and really those type of details, because the big nut has been, hammered down. What the project has been determined through this process, which was a really good process.
Yeah, no, I think
Well attended on the 5th?
I would say there were 50
Yeah.
people there, maybe, something like that.
About
40,
it,
50
sorry.
people.
I'll check it out on the website, though.
There were about 100 that attended the two meetings earlier in January, and then I don't know how many. Was that meeting on the 5th Zoom? Broadcast on Zoom? No, right. So it was just whoever was in the room, I would guess 40 to 50,
Right,
something
could
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the folks were returnees, too.
Yeah.
We did ask that question at the beginning. These people who've been engaged in the process from the
From the
beginning.
beginning, yeah. So you didn't have any last minute?
No?
I would say the feedback
Very positive.
was generally positive. In some cases, pitching ideas to help
Yeah.
kind of help the project as opposed to figuring out, ways to, there's been zero really pushback on the parking lot itself and that retreat. All the feedback that came in was more directed at, why are you putting the gatehouse at the top of the hill? What about the off-road trail? That stuff, which is, as I've said through the project, is not the material part of this project, really. The material part is to get the parking lot.
Accepted the retreat.
Yeah, which is the big part that we're trying to accomplish here, so. Anyway, so yeah, no, I think we're in a good place. Yeah.
Thinking about a comment made last go-around, Rich had mentioned how maybe it's a good idea to have a field trip out there on site. And I was thinking, you know, Amber did a wonderful job. I mean, really top-notch job. But with all those pictures and stuff, it was all two-dimensional. And it's very hard, you know, people were asking questions about elevations. It's very hard to understand, I really think, what's going on out there unless you're there in person. And I know you were going to maybe look into seeing what the difficulties would be to have, you know, a meeting out there. But I think a field trip would be very worthwhile in a situation like this, because you could have somebody actually pointing it out to you what it is that's actually being done, as opposed to a two-dimensional picture, you know, before and after, which is effective, but it's nothing like actually being there on site. And I know I've been in many projects, you know, and you have to go out there in person to see it. If you purchase a house, you got to go out and look
Yeah,
at the
I think
house yourself to
I-
see what it is.
I think it's a good idea. I think we need the right people there, though.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, at the meeting, for example, there were a couple people that asked about the elevation of the lower parking lot. How's that?
Yeah.
How high is it going to be? You know, and even at the project meeting, they weren't able to kind of give an absolute answer. You know, I mean, some of that's still being figured out, to be honest. But you'd almost need to have like a Leslie or somebody. I'm not sure who.
Engineer.
Yeah, someone would have to be there
Somebody from-
to answer the kind of questions that we would ask in that situation. I mean, I think it'd be a great idea to do it, but it's
Just
like,
be open to the public or just for the
No,
board?
to the public.
Open for the public?
Sure.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think that presents some difficulties with managing it and communications and
Legal posting of something like that, it could be challenging.
yeah. I think I was thinking you were talking more about for the board and possibly also for, you know, Chris and,
Personally, I would have a lot of value. I would, you know, that would be very worthwhile to me.
Yeah.
And if it's worthwhile to me, I would think it would be worthwhile to the public, for them to understand.
yeah, I have a feeling we wouldn't get many people from the public. I mean, you know, it's
You might.
It's difficult to, I mean, even for the cleanup, what do we get from the public? It's a very low turnout generally, unfortunately, you know, it's sometimes, so it's,
people that are already
other than the
invested.
MBBA folks, you know, we don't get a lot of the public, so. I think this might be a little too esoteric for the public to really try to get anything out of it, because they haven't been involved in the project. I don't know.
Except for you do have a core group of people that have been involved in the project, 50 or so people. So they might want to, I mean, I don't know. They
You mean the
might-
people who
I-
attended the
I
meeting?
What would be the purpose of doing that? Aside from that, it's like informational in nature, okay? As Tom says, that there's not a lot of pushback and stuff. I can see if we had a lot of pushback on the project and we needed to, like, you know, do like a educational or informational. I don't see the value in doing something like that. And I also agree that when you have a large group like that, it's very difficult. Like, how are you going to communicate the questions? And, you know, unless you have, but you're not getting a lot of pushback. So I don't think that that kind of outreach is you know, that valuable. I think if you were getting a lot of pushback, maybe, to show them the need and the correlation of it.
Well, let me put it this way. If we go as a group, that's an open meeting situation.
Right.
So you would have to have it open to a certain degree. So maybe you wouldn't invite the public, but if you announced it and public showed up, then that's another situation.
But then you got to worry about recording it and all, I mean, it's a headache.
It's also public space that, you know, anyone that wants to go and ask and look at it and then, you know, ask staff a question or whatever is.
If we go as a group, that's an open meeting violation.
Yeah, but
I don't think
if
we
I
should go
have a
as a group.
question, I can go to that parking lot today and look at the presentation and then say, oh, that's what it looks like. So I think that a lot of what you're getting at, I think if you as an individual have questions, I think a visit to the park would help you to solve some of those questions and put your eyeballs
So in
on it.
other words, you're saying that we shouldn't go as a group.
I don't see much of a need for it, but I'm not sure I understand where these guys are coming from. But I think, you know, and again, we're probably not the group because, you know, I've been a user since the 1960s, and so I know what it is, and it's pretty easy concept for me. But if somebody is is not familiar with it, maybe they need some help. And I think the material that's online explains it pretty well. And I think if you have questions of, anything to do with the town as a member of the public, and you go out there and you ask the question of staff, then they will help you to answer that question. So,
I think the only questions, I'm just sitting here thinking, I think the only questions I can remember being asked about the parking lot were regarding the septic, which was asked at the last meeting, because moving it back does put it at the fringe of the septic system. And the other was, how high are the dunes going to be? And will you be able to see the water from the parking lot, or they're going to be, because we're building a dune there. So I can't remember any other questions other than that were really focused on the lot. But it's a good question about the open meeting. I mean, if we go there with no agenda, with nothing to discuss, it's just educational for us. Still an open meeting?
Yeah.
Open meeting when four
Have a
more
quorum.
gathered together.
Only if we talk about stuff.
If I may.
I mean, we don't have, we can be in the same place. We just can't, we're going to be at the same place on Saturday cleaning the beach. Is that an open meeting? There has to be
It's
an,
open to the public, so that's okay.
yeah. I'm not so sure about that. Go ahead.
So a couple of things. This has all been mapped out and funded for this particular outreach that we're doing already. So any additional outreach, if it involves the
money, yeah.
consultants,
Right.
is not funded. Secondly, I agree with Maureen, we don't have any pushback. So if anybody has a concern in the neighborhood, or Bill, if you want to go to the site and have a staff member point stuff out, we can do that on a one-to-one basis. But I don't, I mean, I think that the consultants are leading us well on how to do the outreach, and I think the outreach is very robust already.
I agree. I don't.
Well, for example, I have a hard time conceptualizing the elevations. I really don't understand the elevations. So from what I was looking at, I think the elevation east of the building is all going to be at the same level as that building. And it's going to require a great deal of fill, and the dunes drop off a lot to the, let's see, what direction would that be? To the south. And so is that all fill? Are we filling in all of that area?
Can we have like an offline conversation?
Yeah.
I'd be happy to
Okay.
meet with you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand what the elevations are really,
Well,
what
they
this
haven't.
is going to really
They
look
haven't really been
like to me.
finalized. I mean, you have a concept at this point, right? So it's like a concept car, they don't have an engine in them, you just see the car, So, I mean, this is a long way, 30% is a long way from completion. So I don't think the team even has all the answers for that. So you could probably torture Leslie, and she probably couldn't tell you. So, because there's a lot of stuff that they have to figure out still in terms of engineering. So let's wait till we get a little further along. I mean, this project's 2 years away from construction. There's going to be a lot of discussion about it between now and then. So I suggest we move along, and we'll just keep that idea fresh. But, I think for now we're in a good place, and let's leave it there. Okay? All right. So anybody else? Bill, we've covered this scout stuff. Anything else you wanted to cover tonight on public outreach?
Well, just a note that I meant to mention when the boys were here, and our little trip on Saturday to do a couple quick things, we got something that I, in my 50-plus years of going out there, have never seen whales breaching off of Sandy Neck Beach. And I saw that, and I saw that for the first time. And my wife's staying home was what caused those whales to breach, because she has friends of ours that have used the camp. Oh, we see whales when we're at your place. And, she's never seen a whale out there. So she opted to stay home with the dog as opposed to going out with a bunch of boys on Saturday. And we had a great show. And I think that Tracy Hallett has my pictures show a little speck out there, but I think Tracy Hallett had a camera with a real nice long lens on it, and I saw her poking it out the window, so she may have some beautiful pictures taken from the beach. We were probably about somewhere between Trail 1 and Trail 2 and when we saw it all going on. And it was a beautiful,
It was amazing to watch.
about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was pretty much flat calm and a little bit of haze, but, and we're pretty sure there were 2 animals, because the big animal would come up and splash from the front, and then the little animal would come up and splash from the front, and then a moment or two later, you'd see a big tail come up, and then a moment or two later, you see a small tail come up. So it was probably a mother and a calf just kind of hanging out there. So that was a first for me.
Yeah, that's-
And all those kids, they saw it too. They don't
yeah,
know,
they must
you
have
know,
loved it.
they don't know the significance of what they saw because, I've been trying to see that for 50 years.
Yeah, and if they were right whales, then, they're pretty
I suspect
limited
that they
numbers.
were,
so.
yeah.
Okay, just a quick summary. We talked about board effectiveness last time. I said I would try to summarize this. I'll do that quickly. One suggestion that was made was to kind of add a piece to the agenda, which is sort of items from the chair, so to speak. So this is something that I want to make a point of or get get in your minds. We could have a brief, probably right at the beginning, maybe eliminate the public comment at the beginning and just have that sort of items from the chair. I think we also agreed, in and around the scheduled activities like fees and rule safety and regulations and things like that. We'll have an attempt to schedule another 3 to 5 meetings where we, consider it's either kind of focused on education or projects that are going on that we should be aware of that help us think more about how to, deal with Sandy Neck. So some of the things we talked about were, invasive species, mosquitoes, a lot of current research going on in universities that we might be able to tap into and bring in. Pete, people with your background you might know people that you know from your experience that you could bring in for to help us educate.
Greenheads.
Yeah. Deeper dive on some of the critical staff projects. I think that was one of the other requests that if there are staff projects going on in the beach, that, just to make sure that the board is as aware as they can be of what's going on in some degree of detail. I think the other thing we discussed was updates on benchmarking. In other words, what are other beaches doing? I mean, this came into play pretty significantly when we did our fee discussion last year. Really, the team here at the beach did a great job of pulling together all these details on these other beach parks. And that's really important because data is always going to be better than anecdotes. So, and that data led to us being able to feel comfortable in pushing ahead with some, different fee structures than we had in the past. And we'll need that continuous stream of money, in order to do these projects. So, and then also to get Mark and, to be in here at least once, if not twice a year, and also possibly other team resources from the town. I mean, it could be Dan Santos, could be someone from the police department, it could be, to think out loud. But so I think if we try to, I guess what we should do is so we're going to start doing this, we got to start getting some ideas.
Police department?
No, I don't mean.
Okay.
I mean, someone that might have a specific expertise in something, that I don't know. I just used that because you were sitting here, so.
It's like, am I invisible?
Don't follow me
Pretty
home.
quiet, but, I usually know he's in the room anyway.
I know he's in the room. Okay, fire department, how's that, Bill? All right, so
I'm
there were a
sure
lot of,
that, the fire chiefs would, Chief Maruka and Chief Beal would probably be happy to come and chat. That's actually a pretty good
what I
idea.
was talking about is people that have a specific area of expertise or leadership, or, that could, like a Mark Ells, or it could be Dan Santos or someone, that has a broader perspective than any of us would have,
Actually, how the fire department deals with Sandy Neck colony is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and they have that drill out there every year.
Yeah.
All right, so now the hard part is actually getting this stuff done, getting ideas to, I can certainly handle Mark, talking to Mark, because.
You can handle Mark?
Well, handle and get it, ask him to, ask Mark to just like a mutiny. If anybody would like to be chair, you please.
We only pick on you because we love you.
Please raise your hand. I'd be happy to go in the back and
Look
sit
good
down.
in red. so-
Yeah, I know. Jeez. Okay, tough crowd.
We love you.
Where was I? Yeah, so,
I think you're about to ask for the motion to adjourn.
no, I don't have to yet, because Pete's not asleep yet, so I'm good for another few minutes. Pete's not waving at me, so. Yeah, no.
Something to say tonight, too.
Oh, he is.
In other words, we need to get some ideas from everybody, not just me, but I can talk to Mark about his presence here, so that's at least a start. I'll try to get him scheduled as quickly as I can. And the rest of you that are throwing darts, come up with some people that can come in and speak to us. Otherwise, you'll be listening to me for the next year. That's your incentive. Pete?
If there is a desire to bring in the fire chiefs, I would be happy to make that contact.
I mean, let's submit the ideas, and then we can talk about it and make the contacts.
I'd like to fill the committee here and the general public in on the status of the cottage halfway out Sandy Neck. Now, when I call it the halfway house at school, I get all kinds of bad looks, so I'm going to start maybe saying the cottage at Sandy Neck halfway out. Anyways, Bill helped both his scouts sweep it out, but I had a group of 7 in there on Friday night, and we scrubbed the floors, and we mopped up years of mouse urine and everything.
Yeah, you did.
And it doesn't smell.
Oh.
So I hope to be getting students out there for another 2 times. It is ready to be shared. It's
That's
much,
great.
much nicer. And the stove works fantastic.
A huge project that nobody wants to do.
And there ain't no raccoons anymore.
No more raccoons?
I beat them.
Beat them finally.
Someone from the staff, I believe, one of the things I was going to do on Saturday was, Pete had mentioned to me, he says, hey, the firewood doesn't fit in the stove. So someone from the staff, when I got there ready to cut it in half, someone had already done a lot of that work. So the wood fits in the stove.
Good job.
And Pete didn't actually beat them.
Not physically with a stick.
Physically.
I thought-
He was
I-
hammering the
Observationist.
table.
I thought he said he was going to eat them. That's what I thought.
He won the fight.
I won the fight. Okay, yeah.
That's what he means.
But
Raccoons were harmed in the.
that is actually, using of the building is what keeps the raccoons and keeping it clean and the mice out of there. I mean, it gets in, if you don't use the building, it hasn't had very much use in the last number of years, then it just gets back to that. So, now that we have a clean, usable building, we need to continue to encourage, arts groups and educational groups and whoever else the process is. And there was some question at one time about, groups have to have an insurance certificate, and so we need to be able to answer that question, when we get inquiry. So, the secret to keeping the facility, I know that, and Bill knows it with our personal camps, that, when you don't get out there for a while, then you got more to do, and you're doing the same thing over again, whether you were there or not, So use is really the key to, and getting people like scout groups and educational groups and, Pete students and so forth to have some ownership in that. I mean, as a high school student, I got extra credit in my Ecology 2 class from, one April vacation, sitting on the roof and banging shingles, So, I mean, it's that kind of involvement that will keep that building, fresh and usable, is to get people using it.
Does it get advertised in any way? I mean, other than being on the website, on our Sandy Neck website, does it get marketed in any other way?
It doesn't get marketed, but it's only available to 501c3s, so it's not like there's a place
Right.
to advertise it. Yeah, and, we don't want to field 100 inquiries about renting it.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, okay.
But developing those relationships with the nonprofits and making sure that, that they know that it's, not in the condition it was 3 years ago when they poked in there, And
So I have to tell. Yep.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any new business, and a public comment? Sorry.
Just one thing. When you're talking about the outreach thing, I think Hannah said that she was going to put together a list of all the research that's going on. She would keep us informed on a regular basis. And I thought that was a really good
Yeah,
thing
that's,
to
that's
have
the research that's
available
going
to
on
us.
at the beach.
So we
Yeah.
could have an understanding, and maybe perhaps if it's something that appeals to us, that has a special interest to us, that person then could provide more information for us. Whether they come in person, whether they provide a summary of their results,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll remind Hannah.
Okay.
And my enthusiasm about those raccoons is because I spent the last 3 or 4 months out there every couple
Abuser.
weeks, and they just kept beating me. It was. I was being abused by raccoons.
I have this vision of a raccoon sitting out there now laughing at you.
That's my word. I'll go out there like in 2 weeks, and they'll move. They'll be
Yeah.
back in.
At least you didn't get one of the caretakers at another facility, not Sandy Neck, that I helped to take care of a number of years ago, was taking down a ceiling in an unused cabin and got a mummified raccoon on the head when the thing fell down. So that didn't happen to you, so we're glad. We're a hat.
Okay, well, I think we've digressed enough now that I think it's time for any public comment? Any public comment before we go?
Yeah,
Please make yourself known to
this is easy.
the rest of the world.
Rich French. Would you just put the new stuff that you have for sale on the website?
Yes, we don't have it yet, but when we have it,
I was gonna say, we have great stuff, and it's like, it ought to be out there so everybody can see.
Yeah, I think Nina said she's going to bring some next meeting, so we can
That's it.
do a little marketing. Right, anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh.
Aye. Motion's passed. Okay, thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
Job, Thomas.